We consider bribery and corruption to happen widely in their countries. We are not excluded. And also the World Bank estimates that over 1 trillion is paid in briberies each year. And these are the disastrous consequences in terms of eroding political stability, increasing the cost of business, and contributing to poverty. Okay, so bribery is all over. It's not only us, it's all over the whole world. And these are some of the surveys and the statistics that have been conducted.
All right, and looking at Zimbabwe now, how widespread is bribery in Zimbabwe?
I can't give statistics, but we hear everybody talking about that there is bribery, there is corruption, but the stats I don't have.
But it is a cause of concern.
It is a cause of concern, and it is also a cause of concern. And the trajectory of our government, as enunciated by the president, is that we must fight corruption, and for us to be players, as we are now saying, we are open for business. So we should take away of this vice of corruption in order for us to participate in international trade, because bribery also disturbs trade international. So if we are to be part and parcel of doing business international, we must implement this ISO standard, which is ISO 37001, an anti-bribery management system standard.
Let's look at that statutory instrument. How will it stop bribery, or how will it curb bribery, and how beneficial is it for business?
All right, now the benefits of ISO 37001 is that it enables organizations, all right, institutions, be it public or private, be it individual institutions or businesses owned. It establishes anti-bribery management systems and controls. Okay, we are able to adopt policies, anti-bribery policies, anti-bribery procedures, anti-bribery training for our staff, anti-bribery vetting of our staff. We're talking about financial and commercial controls that we put in place, following a high-level structure in terms of the elements of business, in terms of, if it is public sector also have to implement. We see a lot of public sector institutions, institutions implementing ISO standards like 9001. So the same structure that happens when we're implementing management systems is the same structure that we do when we're implementing ISO 37001, which is an anti-bribery management system. So it is a system which is a strategy for implementing and running business in terms of preventing, detecting, and assessing and monitoring bribery and corruption.
How well are we implementing? How well is business implementing the system?
What they implement, this system is based on the structure of which we refer to as the high-level structure, where we're talking about ISO 9001 basically. But ISO standards as such, management system standards, are based on that high-level structure as enunciated in ISO 9001. But then we have specific sector elements, like for example for bribery, we've got elements in terms of bribery, identifying, detecting, monitoring, evaluating, reviewing. You know, they then sit on top of the structure of what is the high-level structure, in as much as we are implementing these standards. So these organizations that are implementing ISO standards, any ISO standards, be it 9001, ISO 1400. We have our government institutions, like for example, EMA, they're implementing accreditation standards for inspections. They can inculcate these same standards. It can be embedded into the existing systems that we're doing. So we are ready as a country, because we are already implementing ISO standards. So we can implement these standards. It's easy to integrate with those standards. So to answer your question, we are ready. We all have to embrace this standard and implement it together with the standards that we're implementing at the moment.
All right, let's look at a time period, all right? Let's look at having implemented this anti-bribery management system. What are we looking at? 5, 10 years then?
In terms of the implementation?
No, not the implementation, but the decrease in bribery in Zimbabwe.
We can reduce the growth of any standard, the development, the graph for development, the life cycle. It takes 5 years for any standard to mature. Yeah. So there are developmental stages that we take. But however, we don't benefit on maturity. We benefit as we go. Because as we implement, if we start implementing ISO 37 anti-bribery today, it means that we start benefiting in that we are determining the processes in terms of the processes that we do, the interactions that we do with external providers who provide us with services. Because remember, we have to communicate. Once you are implementing this standard, you have to communicate with other stakeholders, which we will now refer to as interested parties, and communicate with them that we have got good internationally recognized corporate governance issues with regards to bribery and corruption. And we start benefiting immediately, because these organizations, if they are all contractors that were into bribery, in bribing our organization or individuals in our organization, they'll stop doing it because they know that we've got controls that we're putting in place. So you benefit immediately the moment you start implementing. A lot of the participants in standard think that you benefit when you get the flag or when you get the certificate. You don't do that. You benefit the moment you start.
It's actually a process.
It's a process which goes on.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Alexio Maseka, for coming to the studio.
Thanks, Innocent, for having me.
All right. That is Mr. Alexio Maseka, who's a quality assurance consultant. We were talking about anti-bribery management systems and how beneficial they are to the country. Moving on at the bulletin, a fatal accident in